This is Andy Tube. This video is about the pressure bar system on the Singer model 327K, the Spartan version. Would also apply to 328K and a couple dozen other Singer models, at least. I have the machine turned up on the hand wheel because it's easier to film, and I hope the angle here sideways doesn't bother you. To start with, we're going to remove the presser foot. If you have any presser foot on there, we'll just take the thumb screw off and we will remove the presser foot. Then we're going to take the nose cover plate, nose cover, take that thumb screw off and remove the nose plate so that we can get access to the presser bar here. This is one of the easiest and simplest presser bar systems that Singer made. It has a pressure regulating thumb screw up here that when you turn down into the machine puts more pressure on the presser foot, and when you turn it back up out of the machine it lowers the pressure. It has an extension pin. It has a pressure bar guide that goes around the pressure bar with a clamping screw that holds the pressure bar in place and lined up to the feed dog, and it glides up and down in this little slot here on the side. And then there's the pressure bar itself, and then there's a bushing that it goes through to guide it and to give it strength. Inside of the presser foot there is a spring, and that's what you're doing when you're tightening this, is putting more pressure on the spring so it has, more resistance and pushes down harder on the presser foot. So if you want to take this off for replacement or cleaning, you just first remove this pressure adjusting or regulating thumb screw. Just keep turning it out. It's threaded, and the aluminum casting of the body is threaded. If we take that out, then we can push the extension pin up through the top of the machine right here, and the spring should come with it. I've only once had a broken spring. Now if we loosen this clamping screw here, it just is a normal straight blade screwdriver, and it turns to the left to loosen. It can be tight and gummy. It could have a bunch of dried oil on it and it can be tight in there. And then I'm going to just lift this up here. I'm going to hold on to the presser bar foot and try and slide this guide up, and the pressure bar, I said foot, but the end of it, to separate them. So push this up and push this down. Sometimes that's also very sticky, and if it won't come free for you, you can use alcohol to loosen it up, or penetrating oil. Okay. Now if you like, at this time, pull that down a little bit. See, sometimes we can get this to come out. There we go. I just want to show you what that looks like. The clamping screw, and it's just steel. It just slides up and down there. Now that that's all off, we can slide the presser bar up and out. And if you have a bunch of built up gunk here, you can clean it first if it doesn't want to pass through the bushing. You can drop some alcohol down from there. You can push it down and clean off. Sometimes there's a ring right around here of a lot of gunk that's very stiff, and the clearance in the bushing is very close, so don't be surprised if you have to give it a little cleaning to get it out. But once you get it up through the bushing, just keep pushing it right up out of the top of the machine. Yeah, see, mine's a little bit sticky in there, but there it goes. So I'll just take it on out the whole top here. You can see some of the old dried up deposits and stuff that I'm talking about. Sometimes, depending on your machine, you know, you may have bought it at yard sale and stuff, and it could be rusty and so forth. And if it's bent, you want to replace it. You know, you may just want to clean it well. Let's look in here now. This is the lever that pushes up on the guide. Right? Remember the guide? It pushes that up. That's what moves the pressure bar. It also pushes on a release lever for the pin in the tension unit. So when you push this up, it pushes back on the spring in the tension unit to open the tension plates so you can thread. And it's on a hinge screw. So if this is bent, or the back of the lever is worn out and won't move this releasing lever enough, you may have to take this out and replace it. Let me grab the right tip for that screw and we'll do that. Just readjust this a little bit. Okay, with the right tip here now, this is also going to be a straight tip screwdriver, and it's lefty-loosey. A lot of times you'll be the first person who's loosening this hinge screw, so don't be surprised if it's in very tight from the factory. And if it doesn't want to break free, you can try giving it a little snappy motion. There we go. And we'll just take it out here so you can see what the hinge screw looks like, and you can see this little extension on the back of the pressure bar lifting lever. There we go. A hinge screw, because it has a place for the lever to swing on without threads up here under the head, but it has threaded threads for a screw to screw into the machine. Once the screw's out anyway, you can just slide it right out here like this. Okay, and I'll show you that hinge thing I'm talking about. See that? It's the same width as the lever, so it can just swing or hinge there. And then on the back of it, here's that little post I'm talking about that lifts this lever up right here. Get a little closer to that maybe. That hinges on there. It lifts that tension releasing tension releasing lever up. There we go. So anyway, this little pin that sticks out can get worn if your machine is used quite a bit. I've seen some of the 66 and 15s like that, so it won't lift, move that little tension releasing lever enough to release tension on the tension unit disc. So that's how you take that off. Now I'll just put it back together, and I think you're going to understand that very easily. It's just the reverse of the procedure I just did. We'll put our lever in there, and you want to be sure that little post gets behind the release lever for the tension pin. So just slide it in with this pointing towards the bottom of the machine, and get your hinge screw in there. Okay. When you tighten this hinge screw, you want to deadhead it. You want to tighten it all the way down until the head is flush with the pin, because it's got that smooth area. So it's made to be tightened completely in, and then this still lifts very easy. Okay. So I'll just turn this back a little bit here. Now, see if this can be a. Oh, I lost my little set screw here. Good thing I put it in a tray. After I take that out, I usually give that a couple of twists back in just to prevent that. So when you put this back in, just be sure that it is loose enough, that the set screw, that it's not going to block the pressure bar inside there when you go to put it back in. See, nothing there. Okay. Then of course you got to have the screw facing the front of the machine. So you just get it back in here best you can, like that, and it can kind of go anywhere for now till we're going to line it up with the pressure bar. Then after you've cleaned your pressure bar, or you got your new one per se, we're going to stick it in from the top of the machine again, right through the screw hole for the pressure regulating thumb screw, and we'll slide it through the pressure bar guide and into that bushing. Okay. And of course everything would be clean now, so it would slide back easily, which mine isn't doing that well. There we go. If you do clean this, if you have a little bottle brush or some pipe cleaners, or stuff a rag through there and shoe shine it back and forth, because the oil gets built up something fierce in here and dries, and dirt and lint get attracted in there. Okay, I think I got everything. Am I still zoomed? Oh, that's why it looks weird. So we've got this in here now. Then I'm going to slide my extension pin with the spring right through the top and right into the pressure bar, like so. Then I'm going to take my big thumb screw and put it back in there. There's a little depressed area up in here that the pin rides in. And just kind of get this started. You don't want to tighten it too much to put a lot of pressure on this, because when you do this you have to reset the height of the pressure bar. It's got to be set at a certain proper height so the feet and any attachment work properly. And I'm going to reposition the camera now to show you how we're going to set the height of the pressure bar. Okay, I think we can see that now. Maybe get a little more light on this side there. So I put my presser bar back in, as you watched, and now I've reattached my presser foot. In this case, I'm just using the only foot that I got with the machine, which is the zigzag or multi-purpose. The end of the presser bar has a flat side, and that has to face out away from the machine, so the presser foot tightens against that flat spot. Okay, and you see right now it's just very loose because I have not tightened the clamping screw, and I haven't turned this down very much. It's just barely in the threads to hang in there, but it can be lifted and it can be turned and so forth. Okay, so the height of this, according to Singer, is 5/16 of an inch above the needle plate. So you want to be sure that your feed dogs are below the needle plate. So if you rotate your hand wheel and get the feed dog below the top of the needle plate there, so you're getting the right height. And from the top of the needle plate to the bottom of that presser foot underneath is 5/16 of an inch, which is 7.9375 millimeters. Okay, now for us in the United States, a $0.25 is 1.75 millimeters. So 2 of them are 3.5 millimeters and 4 of them are 7 millimeters. So it's very easy to start with 4 quarters under the presser foot, like so. So right there we're at 7 of the 7.9 millimeters. And if you want to stop right there, then fine. You'll only be less than 1 millimeter away from the maximum height. If you prefer to get closer to the maximum height, I use these blades like this on a feeler gauge. Now I don't have a 0.9 millimeter blade on mine, but here's a 0.48 and here's a 0.45, which would be a 0.93. So putting the two of these on top, like stacking them together and putting them on top of the quarters, would give me my maximum height, you know. So let's go ahead and do that, in case whoever buys this is going to be doing some thick stuff or quilting or something like that. Okay, so now I want to be sure that my lifter bar is up. So I'm going to lift it up, and then I'm going to push the slide down to get that pin to kind of lock in on the tension release lever. So when you're sitting like this, you're just going to see a little sliver of the presser bar up here above the slide. Okay, but you have to see some of it. If you don't see that presser bar, you're setting it too high. Alright, get back where you can see that a little bit. So the other thing, when you tighten this clamping screw, it keeps the presser bar from moving up and down and moving sideways. So besides the height, you have to line it up with the feed dog, because if your presser foot is crooked when you're sewing, it's going to pull your fabric one way or the other. So for me, I just get in the front of the machine and I look down on what I call the toes of the presser foot, and I line them up with the two slots in the needle plate, and when I feel I have them lined up, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten this clamping screw. Okay, so usually what I do is kind of partially, whoops, need a different blade here. I kind of partially tighten this. Remember, push that down. Lifter lever up and the slide down. Okay, now you just barely tighten it a little bit so that I can still kind of wiggle this back and forth, right? So I know my height is okay, but I want to line up my toes here with the needle plate slots. It looks pretty good. Let's try that. Then I'll go tighten this clamping screw nice and firm, because it's going to clamp that needle bar. Whee! Oops, sorry. Hit the tripod there. So now I can take this out and I can drop my foot and go down, and I can check my alignment with the needle plate opening. Okay, and if it's crooked, I still don't have a lot of pressure up here, right? So you can see, you can kind of, so I can do a little sneaky if I need to, and just loosen this a little bit. Oop, I had it tight. Just enough so that I could nudge it. Actually, I was off a little. I see that now, because with the quarters out of the way, I can line up the edge of the foot right with the line of the opening of the needle plate. So that looks like a little bit better. Then I'm going to check my alignment there, edge of the foot with the edge of the slot. Nice. Okay, now I've set my height and I've set, I guess, what we call our alignment, and I can tighten this up and get more normal pressure on that presser bar and give it a lift here. Okay, so you see, if it's not lined up right, the best thing is just loosen this, or take it off if you want, so there's no pressure on the thumb screw. Loosen your clamping screw a little bit so you can twist it. Okay, and for the height, you got your 4/4 plus 0.93 blades on the feeler gauge. This has to be up, and the clamp, when you're setting the height on the needle on the presser foot, this is up, and that little guide is pushed down against the clamp, and you'll see this little sliver up here. I'm going to say a 32nd of an inch, but I'm not that good at guesstimating. Okay, so that's setting, removing, replacing, and setting the height of the pressure bar on a 327K and 328 and 337 and 457 and 401 and Rocketeers and all kinds of machines. I don't know about the new stuff from the 70s on, but and that's a real common height too. And I'll tell you, if you can't find a document that tells you the height, there's just a little tip. When your needle bar is set properly with the needle bar all the way down as far as it will go and the pressure foot all the way up, the two cannot touch. So if you can take a piece of copy paper or something and pass it between those two, you're good. So even if you don't know the height, set it like this. Set it up high, but without touching the bottom of the needle holder. Okay? But we know on this model and many more, it's 7.9375 millimeter. That's something like 0.30 inches, I think. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're asking yourself, well, how the heck am I supposed to know the height of the needle bar? The next video I'll show you. So come back and see me again, okay? Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself.